You're listening to the Vacation Rental Success Podcast, and with over 1.6 million downloads, this is the place to be for all your short-term rental knowledge as part of the Vacation Rental Formula Business School. If you're a regular listener, you know Heather and the VRF B School team are now specializing in coaching and consultancy for short-term rental property management, and now with a laser focus on incorporating AI into your daily operations. If you're thinking AI sounds exciting but have no idea where to start, then you'll want to hear this. We're running a brand new series of free webinars designed specifically for short-term rental operators who want to get ahead of the curve without drowning in the tech overwhelm. Inside these sessions, we'll break down what AI actually looks like in a real property management business, from automating guest messages to leveling up your systems, marketing, and team operations. And if you've ever wished someone on your team could take the lead on all this, well, that's exactly what the AI Ambassador program is built for. The webinars will walk you through how it works, what you will be implementing, and why early adopters like you will be ahead of the industry curve. So pull out your Notes app because you're going to want in on this. Visit the link in the description of this episode for more information or visit the show notes. Stay tuned as we'll talk more about this in the mid-episode break. So without further delay, here's your host, Heather Bayer.
This is the Vacation Rental Success Podcast, keeping you up to date with news, views, information and resources on this rapidly changing short-term rental business. I'm your host, Heather Bayer, and with 25 years of experience in this industry, I'm making sure you know what's hot, what's not, what's new, and what will help make your business a success. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. This is your host, Heather Bayer, and as ever, I am super delighted to be back with you once again. Here we are, back in Gulf Shores for another 3 months. For anyone who is new to the podcast, I'll just let you know that I record from my RV in Orange Beach, in fact, this year. We're at a campground called Sun Outdoors in Orange Beach, Alabama. And I escape from Canada each year for 3 months to leave the snow behind and to enjoy some really good weather. And the weather has been gorgeous since we've been here, although it is a bit cooler today. But I have nice vegetation out at the back of me. It's really quite nice and private, and I get to go walk my dog on trails and meet up with people in this Gulf Shores area while I'm down here. Absolutely love it here. I have my little podcast studio all set up in a corner of the RV. It really is very neat. So I'm very happy. But here we are, back in Alabama for a little while now. So if you're like most short-term rental professionals I talk to, you're passionate about your business. Of course you are. You're passionate about your properties and your guests and your owners. But when it comes to training your team, well, let's just say that part doesn't always get the attention it deserves. So as a continuation of last week's episode where I talked to my son and my business partner, Mike Bayer, about generally training and development and what we've been doing as a company to create the Thrive program, Thrive Essentials, the Ambassador program, etc. But today I want to talk more practically about training and development in our industry. Not just the kind that ticks boxes or just hands out manuals, but the kind of training that actually motivates your team. The sort of training that builds trust and helps your business grow. So today, I'm also going to show you how AI can become your secret training assistant. You know, I've been banging on about AI for a long time. That's not going to stop. So even if you're not techie, even if you don't think of yourself as a trainer, I'm going to share with you a really practical, empowering approach that anyone can use. So a lot of you that have been listening a long time know my history, but for those who don't, before I started managing vacation rentals, way before the podcast, before Airbnb, long before AI was a thing, I was running a training company. Back in the 1990s, I founded a business called Leading Minds. We specialised in management and marketing training for professionals in the healthcare sector. People like care home managers, clinic administrators, and community service directors. And we worked in a few hospitals in and around the Oxford area. And it was a great time, really enjoyed that. But what I learned during those years is that adult learning is a very particular kind of challenge, albeit a very rewarding one. So the people we were working with were smart, very capable professionals who had years of experience under their belts. But many of them had never had any formal training in leadership or communication or strategic thinking or any other of the managerial skills that they were using every day. So we didn't just teach what to do, we had to show them why it mattered, how to apply it, and how to connect it to their real-world roles. And now, decades later, I'm seeing the same pattern in the short-term rental space. We've got incredible people. We've got owners and operators and housekeepers and managers and marketers, all wearing 5 hats. But training gets pushed to the bottom of the list so often. The good news is that things have changed and things have become so much easier because we no longer have to book venues, print binders. These are all the things I was doing back in the 1990s. Or create training from scratch to get results. We used to spend hours on creating workshop programs. But with the rise of online learning tools, and especially AI, we have access to a new kind of support. And this support is faster, it's more scalable, and it's more honestly, more tailored to the way that today's teams learn. So you can now take the deep, human-centered principles of adult learning, things like self-direction and practical relevance and real-world scenarios, and then use AI to help build systems that deliver those consistently. And the great thing is that you don't need to be an expert in training design to create a fantastic onboarding process, for example. All you need is the knowledge you already have, some source materials like your SOPs or maybe a good podcast transcript where we've talked about creating an onboarding program. And you need a tool like Google's NotebookLM that helps you turn all of that into something structured and really usable. So in this episode, we're going to talk about exactly how to do that, no matter how big your business is or how new you are to training. Because if there's one thing I know from Leading Minds, my company, and from my years in this industry, it's this. When you take training seriously, you create clarity. When you make it engaging, you inspire confidence and you motivate people. And when you make it repeatable, you build long-term success because you can reiterate and regenerate as you go. So let's get going on this episode. So you might be thinking, Heather, I'm not a teacher. I run a business. I don't have time to design fancy training programs. And I do get that. Truly, I do. I was a property manager for over 20 years. I ran a business that grew to manage nearly 200 properties. And in that time, I wore just about every hat you can imagine, just like you're probably doing right now. Being a caretaker when a septic system goes down on a Saturday, on a long weekend. Bookkeeping, sorting through receipts in the middle of the night during tax season. And then, of course, being a hospitality cheerleader, because you have to encourage the team to deliver the smiles and solutions, especially when things get tough, which they do. And then, of course, you're a problem solver, a scheduler, a guest therapist, you name it. We do it. So I know what it's like when someone says, oh, and now we need to build a training program for our team. It can just feel like one more massive task to an already overloaded to-do list. But here's what I've learned. You don't need to be a polished educator or a PowerPoint wizard to train your team effectively. You just need a clear outcome. You need a simple format, a simple way of putting this all together, and a connection to your core values. If you can explain how to do something, why it matters, and how it fits into your guest experience, you can train someone else. And better yet, you can build that repeatable training that saves you time in the long run. So it's important to start small. How small? Maybe it's a quick, how we clean glass surfaces without streaks session. I'm going to be interviewing Sean Kemper from ETI Solutions in the upcoming weeks, and I'm sure we can cover that off because that is something that I know is dear to Sean's heart, is cleaning and how we use the chemicals we have to hand to clean effectively. But this has to be trained. So another small one could be how to handle guest complaints with grace. You don't have to create a university level curriculum. And in fact, there are no university level curriculums out there for teaching these things to short-term rental operators. Hotels, yes, maybe, but we're really working on the short-term rental side. So it's down to you. You just need to teach what you already know with intention. And here's the great thing, that once you take the first step, the next ones get easier. You will find your rhythm. And then soon, before you know it, your team's learning faster, they're performing better, feeling more connected to your business because they feel that the business is investing in them. That's the point where you go from being just a manager to being a mentor, a coach, someone who's building something sustainable, not just being reactive to the daily chaos. So there, now you know you can do it. Let's talk how. Let's talk tech in a way that's really useful. Over the last few months, if you've been listening to the podcast, you'll have heard me talk about NotebookLM. It's developed by Google. It's a free AI assistant, and it acts like a personal research and content generation tool. But in our case, it's like having your very own content creator on staff to help with all your training needs. Did you just hear me say it was free? This always gets me because NotebookLM is one of the most powerful platforms out there, and it is completely free. So there's no excuse not to go and test it out. So here's how it works in a nutshell. You just upload your source material, and that can be just about anything. So it could be your SOPs or standard checklists, photocopied pages from books or PDFs on adult learning or hospitality or safety or leadership, anything that is connected with what you want to train on. And I include in there PDFs on adult learning. It's really helpful to upload this type of material because NotebookLM does not go out to the web unless you specifically ask it to. It only delivers on the material that you give it. So if you want to create good adult learning materials, then it's a good idea to upload some materials on adult learning theory. So you can also upload podcast transcripts, including episodes from this podcast or other podcasts that you love. Maybe you've listened to podcasts on how to develop training programs. Just upload the transcripts from those. Even YouTube videos. Yes, you just add a link to a YouTube video and it will pull the transcript so the AI understands the content. And then, of course, there's blog posts, there's job descriptions, training assessments, your business wiki, your business knowledge, your values, your mission statement, anything you want, you feel that would underpin any training that you're going to deliver. Just upload it to your notebook. And then the simple thing, once your source library is all set, you just start talking to it, just like you'd ask a human assistant. You could say, can you create a 15-minute training session on how to do a 5-star welcome walkthrough for guests? Or summarize our core values and turn them into a training checklist. Another idea, generate a quiz to assess understanding of our check-in procedures. There is really no limit because it goes even further, because NotebookLM then generates a number of things. Video scripts that you can use for quick internal training clips. slide decks, those slide decks that you can then drop right into Canva or PowerPoint, audio content scripts, so that you can record bite-sized training audios on your phone. It'll deliver worksheets and reflection prompts, mind maps to show how concepts connect. And of course, that's great for visual learners. And when you are thinking about adult learning, you have to address all their learning styles, whether they're visual or whether they're auditory or whether they want to be hands-on. All of these things that NotebookLM do can help generate these different styles of learning materials. Flashcards is another thing. Quizzes, anything that helps team members retain information. So here's another example. You've got a new maintenance team member starting next week. You upload your property care SOP, a YouTube video on basic HVAC maintenance, and a podcast episode about preventative repair planning. Then ask NotebookLM to create a 2-day onboarding plan, complete with objectives, daily topics, a quiz, and a worksheet. Boom, you're done. You didn't start from scratch. You built it from resources you already have or trust, and you did it in a fraction of the time. So now, of course, you'll want to personalize it. Maybe film a quick intro video or add in your own stories, but the bones are there. And you didn't have to do it alone. You had NotebookLM. So where do you begin? This is where a lot of people get stuck. They hear all the ideas. You're listening to this. You've got things sparking off in your brain right now that says, wow, this is great. I can go ahead and do this. You love the vision, but then you've got to think, okay, but how do I actually do this in my business? So let's break it down into some clear, simple steps. And I'll walk you through some real examples so you can see how this works, whether you're managing 5 properties or 50, whether you have a team of 1 or a team of 30.
We want to take a quick break here because if you're running a short-term rental business today, you've probably felt it. The industry is moving fast. Faster guest expectations, tighter margins, and now a wave of AI tools that promise the world. And if only someone had the time to figure them out. That's exactly why we built the AI Ambassador program. Think of it as training your very own in-house AI leader, someone on your team who knows your business, knows your systems, and can take the lead on implementing AI in a way that actually saves time instead of adding more noise. Over 8 weeks of live training, your ambassador learns how to uncover bottlenecks, evaluate pain points, map how work actually gets done, and identify where AI can make the biggest difference. They'll build effective prompts, create AI-powered SOPs, strengthen team communication, and choose the right tools to make daily operations smoother and more efficient. Then they get 9 months of group coaching to keep the momentum going and help you avoid the "we learned something cool but never used it" trap. And because so many managers are asking for support right now, registration for our next intake is officially open. And if you want someone in your company to confidently lead the AI transition instead of everyone guessing their way through it, this is the moment to step in. The truth is simple. Early adopters here will be ahead of the industry curve. Register for our upcoming webinar series using the link in the show notes to get some quick AI wins and a taster of what your AI ambassador will become a master of. Trust me, this is the kind of hour that pays you back every single week.
So step 1, you just choose one training need. Just one. Pick just one small but important task or challenge that your team regularly faces. And don't start with trying to design your entire training system overnight. That will make it overwhelming. So here's a few starter topics. How about how to create a 5-star guest welcome? This could be a physical welcome if you still have guests that come into your office. You could create a short training video on how to create a 5-star guest welcome as they walk in. Handling a guest complaint with empathy. I mean, that's a whole topic on its own, is handling complaints and problems. It was something that I always had difficulty with in my own company and had to spend a lot of time learning how to not be defensive or reactive when somebody came on the phone and they were angry. Now, you can, of course, just teach them, just give them a small manual on how to deal with negativity. But so much better if you could create a short video that has some role-playing in it that shows somebody handling a guest complaint with empathy. Another simple one could be resetting Wi-Fi routers and basic tech troubleshooting. I mean, it's 3.5 years now since I had my own property management company, but I think the most common question for when people get to a property these days is what's the Wi-Fi password? And one of the most common issues that arises is with Wi-Fi. So that could be a really good one to start with. For your cleaners, you could do a training on deep cleaning procedures between seasonal bookings, or what to do when damage is discovered after checkout. What is the process that people go through? So that's all you need to do to start with, is just choose one training need. Maybe now what you could do is go to AI and just ask for, give me 30 very simple training needs that we have for our team. Clearly, you'd have to give a little bit more context to the platform so it knows what type of company you are and where you serve and the type of people that you have that you currently deal with. Context is the big thing with AI, so make sure you give it the context, but you could ask it to come up with 20 or 30 different ideas for very small training. So you don't even have to think about that. You can just get AI to deliver that for you. So once you've got your idea, the one thing you're going to work on, step 2 is to gather some source materials. You don't need a library. Just 2 or 3 solid sources are enough to get started. For example, an existing cleaning checklist, or a YouTube video from a trusted hospitality expert, maybe a podcast transcript about service recovery, or an internal email that outlines your damage policy. So take those sources and upload them into NotebookLM, and NotebookLM will read PDFs, it'll read Google Docs, it will read simple text, it will read transcripts. It reads just about everything, and it will read and understand that content, and you can start asking it to build resources for you. So step 3 is to ask the AI to build your first training asset. Let's say you want to train new cleaners on how to prepare a home for a wow first impression. You could prompt NotebookLM with create a 30-minute training outline that teaches a new housekeeper how to deliver a 5-star guest first impression using our cleaning checklist and welcome script. And you might get a bullet point lesson plan, suggested learning objectives, maybe a role play exercise, a quiz with true, false questions, a printable visual checklist, a few key slides with key reminders. If you are intentional, you can ask it for exactly what you want, or you can just let it run with itself and just see what the output is. So once you've got that, you can use it right away, maybe in a team meeting, or you can adapt it into an onboarding module. Step 4, you personalize it for your business and for your teams. And this is where the real magic happens. You add your own examples, you include stories, and you make it fun. For example, let's say you're training a new business development person. You probably have them shadow you as you do a property visit, but you can also record a video of you walking through a property, just explaining your thought process. Another idea would be to create a game where team members race to spot safety issues. Justin Ford from Breezeway often posts images of rooms that have multiple things assessed as safety risks. So you could stage something similar, or you could simply use AI to create a room with, say, an overloaded power adapter, a fire extinguisher placed in an incorrect way, a rug beside a bed that could be a slip risk. And just connect with Justin at Breezeway if you need ideas, and I'm quite sure he'd be really glad to help and maybe provide you with a few of these photos to give you some ideas. Another idea would be to ask your group to work as a team, to, let's say, create a new guest experience package and then give a prize to the best ideas. And if you involve all your staff, cleaners and reservationists and marketers, etc., this provides cross-training and makes all your people more driven to boost hospitality. So with all those ideas, you can see that training doesn't have to be stiff and formal. This all feels much more real and human. And the more real and human it feels, the more it's going to stick with your teams. So step 5 is to deliver the training and get feedback. Try it out with one team member or a small group, and afterwards ask what was most helpful in that? What felt unclear about it? Is there anything that would make this easier to remember? And then you just adjust it. And that's the beauty of using AI with this. It's fast to tweak. You're not locked into one version. So here's a few other use cases that might spark off some ideas. So for housekeeping onboarding, upload your cleaning SOPs, a checklist and a video walkthrough, then generate a week 1 training plan and quiz. And then ask AI to create flashcards for common issues that can arise. For guest communication training, upload message templates, upload recordings of some really great calls that have taken place, and then ask AI to build a training session on tone and empathy and how to handle escalations. And from that, you can also ask it to create a practice script and role play exercises. So for maintenance basics, use a manufacturer's guide and maybe your maintenance logs from a couple of properties, and then create a preventative maintenance 101 training. And I mentioned that NotebookLM also creates mind maps, so you can include a mind map that shows systems and dependencies and interdependencies between them. Culture and core values. Here's a great one for onboarding your newest staff. So if you're doing our Thrive Essentials program, you can upload all the Thrive Essentials materials and a few company stories, and then ask AI to build a welcome module explaining your mission. So it takes the Thrive Essentials material and it makes it very personal to your business and your teams. And then you can generate a video script and worksheet on how to, let's say, how to live our values on site and at work. So here's something else I want to encourage you to think about. There's no right way to train. You don't have to choose between classroom-style teaching or handing someone a checklist and hoping for the best. The best training programs are blended. They mix different styles to fit different learners and situations. So you might use online or virtual modules for consistency across locations. And this is where, going back to some of that traditional stuff is helpful if you've got an online training program that your new team members start off with, because it's going to be completely consistent for everybody. Everybody's learning exactly the same thing. They're not taking nuances from different people. So it's really standard foundational work. So you might use that. And then, of course, shadow training to let new team members learn by doing. But with all of this great AI systems that we have, it's so easy to create small group workshops that spark conversation, problem solving. Maybe you take 1 hour a week with your teams where they get together and they have a small group workshop. That could include some scenario-based role play, prepares them for what's going to really happen when they're in the workplace. Don't forget things like gamification, gamify tasks, scavenger hunts, games to make things really stick. And then suggest that they use self-guided journals or reflections after a shift. And I go back to Will Guidara and his book Unreasonable Hospitality, and he talks about the family meal where all the staff get together for a meal before the shift starts. And he encourages each one of them to bring a story to share about a customer service experience that they had in the previous day. And I love that idea of allowing staff to share the reflections from their own experiences and then together work through how they could adapt that experience to make the experience better for their guests or for their owners. And then think about away days or mini retreats focused on culture, values, and team building. I've done quite a few interviews over the years where I've talked to property managers who have taken their staff away on 2-3 day retreats. And these have had massive impact on them and on the way they perceive their work and their workplace activities. So have a think about doing that as well. So here's an idea, just sparked off actually in the moment. Why not take a group of guest services staff on an away afternoon to reflect on what hospitality actually feels like? Maybe take them to stores or to a coffee bar or something like that, where they can reflect on what hospitality actually feels like, not just what it looks like on a checklist. The insights and bonding that could come from that could be far more powerful than anything you could teach with slides. And that's a little thinking outside the box when you think that training doesn't need to live in a binder. It lives in conversation, it lives in shared experiences, and it lives in those light bulb moments when someone really gets it. And that's what I just had, was a bit of a light bulb moment. So mix it up, be playful, respect all the different learning styles, and use AI to help build your structure, but always bring your own heart and culture into it. And that's how you turn training into transformation for your team and for your business. So here's your takeaway for today. Training isn't a task, it's a culture. It's something that should be welded into the framework of your business. It's not an add-on. It's there all the time. Secondly, you don't need to be a professional educator to train with impact. And thirdly, the tools are out there now. Tools like NotebookLM, where you can build a training program that grows your people and your business really easily. So start small, start today, and start seeing what happens when your team feels prepared, motivated, and valued. If you'd like to see examples of how I use NotebookLM, or if you want links to adult learning resources or a list of creative training formats, just drop me a message. I'm happy to share what's worked for me. You can also join our community, the Straight Chat community, where I do share a lot of examples of how I'm using these platforms, not just in training, but with anything that we're currently doing. So this has been quite a short episode. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to continue on this path of talking about training and development. I'm going to be interviewing some people who are out there doing this. I did mention I'm going to interview Sean Kemper. I'll be talking to Justin Ford, to Ali Camaletti, and to others who are out there offering training and development in our industry. So keep listening, keep training, keep growing. And as always, take care and enjoy every day. I'm certainly enjoying every day in this sunshine while it's snowing at home. But as I said earlier on, if you've got any questions, please get in touch with me at heather@vacationrentalformula.com. I will, of course, get straight back to you. Many thanks for listening. I'll be with you again next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. And before we wrap up today, I want to remind you, if you've been feeling that nudge that it's time to get ahead with AI, don't ignore it. The operators who lean in now are the ones who will be leading the market 12 months from today. Our free AI webinar series is your chance to see what's possible, get practical examples, and decide whether someone on your team should step in to that AI leadership role. It's simple, actionable, and built for real-world STR operators, not tech experts. The link to register is waiting for you in the description of this episode on your smart device and in our show notes. Go grab your spot now.
It's been a pleasure as ever being with you. If there's anything you'd like to comment on, then join the conversation on the show notes for the episode at vacationrentalformula.com. We'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to being with you again next week.